We'll be covering how you can use the language app in order to translate content. So going from a simple text translation, so there's a translation there being output into the logger, to selecting content from a spreadsheet and providing a translation. So you can translate into any number of languages. They're all available here within the language codes, and then you can just update the language code, loop through the data that we've got within the spreadsheet, and update the values within the spreadsheet. So within the spreadsheet here, I have 5 quotes. So we want to get this data that's contained within the spreadsheet, and then we're going to output them, and I'll show you how you can use the language app in order to translate the content from the quotes. So let's go ahead and we're going to select the ID. And so this is the ID of the spreadsheet. So this is just for demonstration purposes so that we can get the data. So let's first, we'll create a global variable for the spreadsheet ID. And then we'll create a function in order to test out the translate. So create a function. I'm going to call it textTranslator. And we want to have some text that we want to translate. So this is our original text, and maybe we can say it's in English. And this will just say hello world. So if we want to translate this into another language, so let's first we'll select the target language. And the target language in this case is going to be Spanish, so ES. And then now we want to get the translated text, so new text, and do the translation. So we're going to use the language app service, and then within there we translate. And it just expects the parameters. So the first parameter is going to be the text that we want to translate. Source language. And you can just leave it blank in order to detect, or you can use EN for English. So in this case, I'll do EN for English. And then lastly, we need the target language that we're going to be converting it into. So it requires the 3 parameters there. So let's output that information within the Logger.log. So this is going to be our new text value that we've just created. So run through and text translator. So there's it's translated in another language. So now let's get the sheet, and we'll get the sheet quotes. So we need to select the spreadsheet that we want to use. So use the spreadsheet app service and then open by ID, and that's where we use the global ID. And then we want to get the sheet by name, and the name of the sheet is going to be quotes. So that's the name of the sheet down there at the bottom. So this will give us the spreadsheet object, and just to be sure, we can check within the logger there. So let's run the sheet quotes, and that gets the sheet data there. So now what we want to do is we want to get the data. So this is the data, and it's coming from the spreadsheet. So we want to get the data range. So first we select the range, and then get the values of the items within the range. So use the plural in order to get the array of values. So make sure that we do have the values of the items. So that gives us the text that we want to work with and translate. So taking the items and doing a forEach. So this is going to be the quote, and that's going to be the index value of the item in the quote. And we'll need the index afterwards so that we know which column we're writing the data to. So that's why I've included the index within the array, looping through each one of the quoted items. So just as we did over here, we can create new text from the content. And we don't need to have that as a variable, the target language. We can just set it up as ES. And then the language and the content that we want to update and output is going to be the quote. So let's save that, and we'll run through it. So there's the updated quotes. So now we want to take those updated quotes, and we want to select the range and add it into our spreadsheet. So a new item within the next column within the spreadsheet. So select the range that we want to use. And within the spreadsheet, we want to get the range, And the range is going to have the row value and then the column value that we're starting at, and then the number of items that we're adding in it. So the row is going to be the index value plus 1, and the column is going to be within the column 2. So it's the range that we're writing to. And then for the sheet, and we're going to set the values. And because it's just the one value, we can set the one value to the sheet. And we'll just set it as the new text. So run through it again. And there's our translated version of the quote content in column B. So that's how you can use the language app in order to translate from one language to another. And if you do want to get different languages and the different codes for the languages, they're all available over here. So you could go down and you could select the language and then make an update to the language. So if you want to do it in Icelandic and you want to update this to Icelandic, so let's set a variable for it, language, and this is just going to be Icelandic. And this will make it a lot easier if we might want to make changes to the language that we're using. And then within here, the end language is going to be lang there. So let's run through that again, where we've got the quotes. So now it's updated it into an Icelandic translation of the quote content.